It's 1991 and I'm the baddest kid in the school. I spend my days drawing these all over my exercise books. It's been a while and I know people, literally tens of people, have been asking where I've been. And the answer to that is this. This isn't Marvel Studios pumping out AI-generated pablum for the slack-jawed masses. This is the greatest channel on YouTube. We don't do content, we do craftsmanship. What we're crafting specifically this time around is this. Amazingly, we've never had a GT on this channel in any guise. Astonishing, really, since in the 90s this was one of the most desirable brands in the business. In fact, obviously the top-end titanium Xizang and the aluminium Zaskar were bikes that you'd have pictures of on your walls. There was a third top-end GT, and it was this, the Avalanche. Unlike the titanium and the aluminium, this one was made of steel, specifically this American true temper steel. I've never had a bike made of this stuff before. This would have been the third in the lineup. Obviously, with unlimited wealth and resources, I could very easily have gone and found a Zaskar or a Xizang, but everybody's after those, so I thought I'd do something different. So let's have a closer look at this Avalanche and see what's special about these early GT mountain bikes. I always like to start these projects by just looking at the good and the bad, and I'm pleased to say this is almost entirely good. I've already sussed out that it doesn't really need a complete nut and bolt strip down and rebuild, probably just a clean up and a service. And what else is good is that it's almost entirely 1991 catalogue spec original. The only thing missing is the original saddle, which in the catalogue was a GT owned brand with studs, much like a Brooks, but those were plastic and didn't tend to last. There's nothing wrong with this one, but I am going to replace it with something which you will see later on. Apart from that, it's all here. And in terms of the good and the bad, okay, there are a few bad bits, but that's fine. It wouldn't be a project if there weren't. Let's take a closer look. So how do you distinguish the third from top of the line? Obviously there's XT on it. Certainly XT is the first logo you see when you sit on the bike, but then when you look closer, there are of course cost-saving measures, depressingly the actual brake canties and hubs, and indeed I think chain set and certainly rear mech are DX. One level below, some of the aluminium parts replaced with steel and a few grams heavier, but functionally the same. Obviously they had to build this thing to a price point, and of course steel was cheaper to manufacture with, even top end steel, than aluminium and titanium, and they had to have some differentiators. So yeah, a few cost savings, probably the worst among which is these off-brand pedals, which were in the original catalogue. They look like Dior but aren't. They haven't really lasted, and I'm gonna have to bin them, or at least stick them on a slightly less desirable build. Apart from that though, there's plenty to recommend this bike. There were so many unique quirks and features on these early GT mountain bikes that made them so desirable, not least among which this amazing paint finish. To all but the sleuths, there is very little difference between the 91 and 92 Avalanches. In fact, I can't be certain yet until closer inspection which one this is. I'm assured that it's a 91, but we will find out later. In the meantime, here's some examples. I mean, first of all, this overly complex cable routing, the way the cable figure eights for the U-brake. U-brake's more powerful than the equivalent cantilevers at the time. I absolutely love U-brakes, and it's so cool to see one on the seat stays. But of course, it necessitates, also look at this weird cable routing for the front mech. Unnecessary, but it works and it's cool. And whilst we're on the subject, this groove tube underneath, where the cables are not internally routed, they're just sort of underneath the top tube, and the top tube is mashed into a strange profile so the cables are out the way. Totally unique, very cool, very over-engineered, but again, it works. Of course, the triple triangle itself. Yes, Halfords did copy it on their own brand bikes at the time, but GT originated this. God knows why. It's totally unnecessary. It just looks cool. Of course, when you're a kid in 1991, you'd have believed all the marketing in the magazines that said it added stiffness and improved acceleration and all the rest of it. I very much doubt that's the case, but it stands out from a mile off and looks fantastic. Another GT quirk is the flip-flop stem. This is one of the earliest stems that had a faceplate instead of a clamp, which means you can, just with one Allen key, flip the stem off, turn it upside down, and put it back on with a negative rise. And you can bet I'm going to do that later on. And also 3D fork dropouts. 1, 2, 3 positions for your front axle. Again, entirely unnecessary. God knows why you'd want to
move your front wheel around, but the marketing would have had you believe that it would help with steering, tracking and personalising the handling. I'm just going to leave that as it is.
Anyway, enough jibber jabber. The more I inspect this thing, the more surface rust I spot. Nothing catastrophic, but certainly necessitates a really good cleanup before we go any further. Then we can determine how much restoration is actually required. More good news, I can confirm that this surface rust is definitely from a lifetime in storage rather than from years of abuse. And how do I know? Well, regular viewers will know that I have quite a few clever little tricks for determining whether a bike has got high mileage or has just been booted around in barns and sheds for decades. This is definitely not the former. The first trick is, first of all, this is a factory original. You couldn't get these aftermarket chainstay protector, and it's only got 1 or 2 little chips out of it, which means this thing's been ridden hard off-road very, very infrequently. Secondly, this is the original chain. I think it's a Shimano one. It's definitely gone brown from sort of surface corrosion, but when you actually do a chain checker on it for length, it's not worn in the slightest, which means the gears aren't going to be worn either. And in fact, on testing, the thing is mechanically solid. So, scrubbing off surface rust with a bit of WD-40 and a Brillo pad is going to be a relatively easy task, and then we're going to get to polishing. But before we get the polishing kit out, it's time to reveal the short list of replacement parts needed. Nothing wrong with this saddle, it really is quite lovely, but it's not quite racy enough for the third from top of the range. It's certainly not original, so off it goes, and you're about to see what I'm replacing it with. Secondly, it has been said that Satan himself would be skating to work before you'd see me putting bar ends on any of my projects. That might be about to change. These are definitely going in the charity bin, but I actually do have some plans for the ends of these handlebars. Speaking of handlebars, these are the original, straight from the 1991 catalogue, GT waffle grips. They looked cool, they were unique to GT, you could spot them a mile off, but obviously they're ancient and they've had other people's greasy paws on them, so in the bin they go. What's next? The off-brand pedals, I don't think anyone will mourn their loss. They can go in the charity box as well. You're about to see the replacement for those. Obviously, black wall tyres are an abomination on any bike from 1991. It's going back to skin wall as God intended. Normally I would put a nickel chain on, but although this one doesn't look pretty, it is original and it's still solid. So what I'll probably do is just give it a good scrub and run it. Oh, which reminds me, I'll get rid of this horrible dork disc. That's a job for later. What else? Oh yeah, it's got no bottle cages. We'll see about that. First of all, no surprises, a titanium flight. I'm very pleased to say this is a 1991 original. It's not a reissue. I do occasionally use reissues, but I certainly don't believe in resto mods. If you ever see me putting modern parts on a classic bike, you'll know I've been kicked in the head by a horse. Perhaps immediately exposing my own rank hypocrisy, these Tioga Surefoot 6 are possibly several years newer than 1991. But I happen to have them in my stash. They're a lot better than what was already on the bike, and most importantly, I make the rules so I can just as easily break them. So on they go. Bottle cages are period correct. These are original Elite Chiusis, and of course you will permit candy yellow because that's exactly the colour I would have chosen if I was rich enough to own this bike back in the day. Speaking of candy yellow, and you do need to be rich if you're going to try and buy a pair of these nowadays, I happen to have these unused, untouched, original Onza Yules grips. I've been dying to use these for years, but too nervous to put them on a bike because they are so ridiculously expensive. Obviously, back in the day, they would have cost a few pence, but they're so rare now. But anyway, they're lovely, and on they go. And while we're talking about Onza, these are the bar ends for which I am prepared to make an exception. These are also the source of some mystery because I was told by the guy that supplied the bike that these are the original bar ends that came with it. If that's the case, this could be a 92 and not a 91, because one big notable difference in the 1992 catalogue is the Onza branding is everywhere because at that time they became the main shirt sponsor of the GT team and all the bikes suddenly came with Onza parts as standard. I don't think that was the case in 91, so if these were standard fit, then this could be a 92 Avalanche. Anyway, I still haven't confirmed that, but on they go. And finally, the tyres. Replacing these perfectly good but completely the wrong year and also the wrong colour Tioga tyres is a matter of some urgency. I've yet to decide exactly which tyres to put on, but purely for aesthetics, these are the right colour. They're quite stunning. They're Vittorias. They're nowhere near as nice as the
smoke and dart, which they look a bit like actually. So I might pull out a pair of Panaracer tyres. I think that might actually have been the original standard. So we'll determine that later. But for now, these are going on purely for aesthetics.
I remember reading about these flip-flop stems in MB UK decades ago, and I've never actually taken one apart, to my eternal shame. I have read that it's very easy, and I guess we're about to find out what the innards look like. And of course, there's no way I was ever going to have a stem with a negative rise option and not do that. Because as we all know from Mint Sauce cartoons back in the day, the lower your front end and the more painful and unergonomic your riding position, the cooler you looked. So that's what I'm going to do. Look at that. So far so... Oh, there we go. Easy style. Flipped. I don't want to grease that before putting it back together, but... This is going to look cool. I'm sure it's going to handle like a greased pig, but so do most of my bikes, and I don't care. Oh, look at that negative rise. It look like Miguel Indurain on his time trial bike, only significantly slower. That really was just a few seconds work. If I do finally get so decrepit that I can't ride it in aero mode without putting my back out, it's very easy to flip it back. But for now, I'm loving that. Never talked about these rims, by the way, whilst I'm getting this nasty plastic disc off the back wheel. It's worth noting that they are Ritchie Vantage Experts, exactly the same as on the Team Marin from the same year, which I did last year. Although on that bike, which is generally higher spec and obviously far more of a favourite than I'm afraid this GT will ever be. If you watch the video, you'll see why. The difference on the Marin is that those are dark anodized, whereas this is just a silver finish. Nevertheless, very nice light rims, very straight. Adios. There's possibly no more important upgrade than this. Now I might finally get some sleep at night. Why, I hear you howl, is this not getting fully stripped down and all the bolts going in the vinegar to get rid of every last bit of corrosion? The reality is, unlike a lot of my projects, this doesn't really need it. Yeah, there's a bit of surface rust, which these bottles of polish are managing to remove, but it doesn't really need much more than putting back together with, of course, the nice new bits, and it's going to be good as new, at least from a couple of paces, as per the rule. Here we are at the end of a very long night, and I am calling this good. Is it quite as rare as the Xizang or even the Zaskar from the same year? No, it is not. Does it look absurd with the seat way up there and the stem way down there? Yes, it does. But I am keeping this bike. I love it. First of all, it fits me, which a lot of the bikes that come my way don't. And secondly, I did genuinely always want a GT. I can't believe it's taken until now for me to get my hands on a really good one. And this one is beautiful. So there's only one remaining test of truth, and that is to get it on the scales. I'm betting that it's no lightweight. I think very few, even top spec bikes of 91 were super lightweight. Certainly none can beat my S-Works from that year, or my even my Rally Dynatech Titanium. The Team Marin from that year, which is my absolute favourite, is an absolute anvil. I'm saying this is going to be somewhere in between. We're about to find out. I don't know if you can see that, but that's 12.79 kilos. So I was dead right. It's somewhere in the middle of my collection of bikes from around this era. And by no means featherweight. It's in old money, that's over £28.
But let's see how this thing rides. That's always the test. I mean, the best riding bike from 1991 that I've ever sat on is the Team Marin, which is significantly heavier than this. So we've established that this beauty is no lightweight, but after a long and bleak almost year, nor am I. All that remains is for me to maybe start doing some riding again. And I'm pleased to say that is happening. I've been on the phone to the usual suspects, and I can confirm that another van load or more of priceless rarities like this and others you haven't seen yet will be gathering in a forest near here very soon for another one of those epic weekends like the one we had at the end of 2024. So I can also promise that this video won't be the last. Thanks for sticking around. Please hit all the usual buttons, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.